Hi, and welcome to the Skincarma Pod. I'm Carmine, the creator and voice of the Skincarma blog. With more than 25 years in beauty as a brand builder, copywriter, and skincare junkie, I'm putting my product wisdom and expertise to work demystifying skincare. In this week's episode of the Skincarma Pod, I sit down with Monieka Bos, founder of SkinSKOOL Beauty and the newly launched CosmeticIQ, a powerful data platform reshaping how the beauty industry understands products, ingredients, and innovation. With over 60,000 products and proprietary human-verified ingredient data, Monieka has built one of the most comprehensive intelligence systems in skincare, relied upon by companies like L'Oreal to track launches, analyze trends, and decode what's actually happening beneath the marketing. In today's conversation, we go beyond the surface of dupes and trending ingredients to explore how data is transforming product development, brand positioning, and consumer transparency, and why the future of beauty belongs to those who can interpret it. So let's get to it. Let's welcome Monieka to the pod. Monieka, hi.
Hi, Carmine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you here. It's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah, we talked a few months ago. We started chatting, and now today's the
Mm-hmm.
day.
And I was living on your coast back then, back in those days.
A lot of changes have happened since we last talked. I was in Lisbon when we first talked, actually.
You were,
And
that's right. Oh my God, I forgot about that. I was so jealous.
yeah, but now we're in the same weather here. So it's actually works out. I chase the good weather wherever it is. Right
Is
now it
that how it
happens to be in,
works?
yeah,
I like
yeah,
I
that's
like
where I'm.
that. I like that. I
And now
did the
you're in,
same thing in
right?
moving. I did the same thing. Yeah, I did the same thing moving to LA. I chased the good weather. People ask me like, "Oh, what brought you back to LA?" I'm like, "Why are you here?" It's
Isn't it
the
obvious?
it's isn't that obvious? I mean, I certainly didn't come here to become an actor. I mean, there's only one reason that anybody really comes to LA if they're not here to be an actor. But
It's true.
anyway, we digress already. Monieka, before we walk out on beauty data, I want to start where I like to start a podcast, and that is with a bit of your origin story. Can you talk to me about your career trajectory and I don't know, maybe where your humble beginnings are?
Well, I definitely have humble beginnings. I actually come from a very humble place, a very small town in British Columbia, but we'll skip forward quickly.
Mm-hmm.
um, my background, and I'll include my co founder, Terry Chan, in this as well, because she's part of this origin story, which is actually we were lawyers in our previous life, and we actually went to the same law school. And but I was 1 year ahead of Terry, so of course I didn't mix with her crowd. Uh, and but we ended up meeting for the first time in London, England, working at a New York firm there. And we met on the first day, and we went for lunch every single day and talked business ideas. And we actually started a little cottage business in London when we were there. And That's kind of how we cut our teeth on the beauty industry. We actually started just a little product. It's not even worth talking about, and probably is a little embarrassing to do so. But it taught us a little bit about the ropes. And skipping ahead, one thing led to another, and I came back to Toronto after London and worked at Canada's largest retailer and pharmacy company called Loblaws, kind of like a Whole Foods uh, meets CVS almost.
Hmm.
It's absolutely massive, and I really learned a lot working at Loblaws about private label, about CPG, and that kind of thing. So, and I headed up their litigation team for about 5 years. I was there for a total of 8. And it was during that time, actually, that Terry and I started brainstorming the idea of actually Skin School. Skin School is another company of ours that I should preface a little bit with for you, because it leads into what we're doing with Cosmetic IQ. essentially, Terry and I were talking a lot about how you could compare a lot of different things in life. You can compare phones and cars and all these kinds of things. There's websites and technology available to do that. But there was no way to compare beauty products. And actually, beauty products are quite expensive per square footage, if you will.
Mm.
And at the same time, beauty is extremely overwhelming. You're kind of standing in front of an aisle or in an aisle in Sephora or Ulta, and it's quite overwhelming, the amount of products at our disposal. And we just thought it was kind of a shame that there was no way to compare products, even based on the ingredient list. Of course, there's so much more that goes into a product, the quality of the ingredients, the volume of each ingredient, etc. But we thought it would be maybe helpful to understand products in context. If we simply could start at least comparing them based on the ingredient list. I mean, at the end of the day, that's not a bad starting point.
Yeah.
So we, on the weekends and sort of when we weren't working as lawyers, we would brainstorm this idea, and we eventually decided to create it. And we're happy to say that, 8 years later, we have millions of people come to the site every year. We have about 8 to 10,000 people visit the site daily, just through word of mouth, direct hits to the site, or SEO. And it's proven to be, something of a very interesting website for people out there. And now brands are on the bandwagon because they want to be in front of that audience. So we work a lot with brands who want to access that audience. But I think, Carmine, what happened was about 7 years or 8 years later, we realized that we were sitting on a very valuable data set. We had spent 8 years, this is before AI and all of that, we had spent 8 years uploading and human verifying every single product in the database. And so now, 10 years later, we're sitting on this treasure trove of information. And so we decided to repackage that data and make it accessible to the beauty industry professionals. So now what we've done is we've allowed beauty industry people to access it and slice it and dice that data and query that data as they want, as applicable to their particular role in a company and their particular strategy. And so yeah, that's what CosmeticIQ is. It's market intelligence, but it's precision data. It's not scrape data. It's not an AI query or an LLM query. And I'd love to talk about the difference between what we do and what AI can do.
Well, I was going to ask you that, but go ahead.
Well, if you want me to talk about that now, I'm happy to.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Because, you and I have talked about this, and we're both AI eggheads, I guess you could say.
Totally. That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah.
And I certainly use it all the time. But the thing about AI that I know you know so very well is that AI requires data to function. It requires clean data. It doesn't make the data itself, right? It doesn't work like that. It's an LLM. It's a pattern recognition tool. And so, we do this all the time where we'll put a query into Claude or ChatGPT or something and say, show me all the products that have, pick your ingredient, niacinamide and caffeine or something. Mm-hmm. Or even you could ask it for, certain esters or surfactants or whatever, if you're curious about that. Show me all the products with these ingredients in it. And it will give you a sample. It will give you 9 or 10, if you're lucky, examples. And then it will quickly apologize, and it should, to say, that's kind of the best I can do. If you want, go look up, something. It tells me to go look up on CosmeticIQ because, of course, it knows who I am. But I wish I told everyone that. But the thing is, we'll do that same exercise on CosmeticIQ, and we'll get 2,600 examples. Right. And so why that's so useful is if you're gosh, if you're like a marketer in a company or an innovator or product developer or even an ingredient supplier. We were just actually at the New York Supplier Show here at the Javits Center. If you're that persona, then you really want very precise data about the entire market. You don't just want a sample. I mean, we all learn what the trends are all the time through very important tools like social listening tools, and I'm a big advocate of those tools. But then the question after you find out what the trend is or where the market's going, that way you want to actually see, okay, who's doing what in the market, who's actually produced products under that trend, and usually tied to an ingredient. And that's where we can help.
Yeah. I find so much about what you're doing fascinating. And, the idea that a brand can now go in utilizing Cosmetic IQ and pull up real live, customer, consumer, human driven data about something as granular as niacinamide mixed with caffeine in alternate formulas, like, fascinates me. When I was in house at L'Oreal, like, they would have killed for that kind of knowledge about competitive products. I feel like when they were looking at the competitive marketplace, it was always kind of a crapshoot. Like, who's doing this? Who's doing that? Are you sure they're doing this? How much are they charging? And then you certainly weren't able to follow trends as closely. And,
Yeah.
I think that's really where this tool can drive innovation. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I'm really fascinated. I'm really fascinated about it.
Thanks,
And which
Carmine.
is,
I mean,
yeah,
what you just said, if I can underline a little bit about what you just said, because it's so true. I think there's many sizes of companies that use and can use Cosmetic IQ, but what we're finding across the board is the same problem exists no matter where you are, because it's very difficult to track the market constantly and consistently. To have, it's kind of potentially a junior role within a company, right? Data
yeah,
collection,
yeah,
essentially, right? But the problem is that junior person, there's very high turnover. First of all,
yep,
you lack the consistency to keep like your own internal database going. And I know, talking even to the very biggest companies out there who use our tool, you'd think, and I've worked for the biggest companies in Canada, like I mentioned, and sometimes you just feel when you work in really big companies that they're kind of like a startup. You from the outside, they look very polished and perfect. And when you work inside of them, you realize that everyone's kind of cobbling things together. Not every single department, but there are departments that are kind of cobbling things together. And market intelligence is one of those departments where, because it's usually a junior person or like a team of junior people, there's that
mm-hmm,
high turnover. And it's just very hard to keep a database consistent.
yeah,
Then the other option, of course, is to go outside. And I know of one particular company that is very expensive, is very much focused on CPG, food, beverage, beauty, pet food, etc., worldwide. And where I would contrast us is we're obsessively focused on just beauty. So we really are built for the beauty community. And the US. We chose the US because it is one of the most difficult markets to succeed in. It's also the biggest market.
mm-hmm,
And it's obviously a market that we can handle because we speak English. So unfortunately,
right.
we don't speak German, but we really think that the U.S. market is very important, and if you get a handle on that, you definitely get a handle on what's going on even in other jurisdictions. So
Where, like, not to get too granular, but maybe you will. Where, like, within a brand specifically, are you seeing the biggest adoption, and how are they actually using it across, departments?
Yeah.
Like, I guess
So
mostly would be most interesting to me would be marketing.
yeah, marketing is definitely an area that the idea there is that, well, there's product development and innovation marketing, so you
Hmm.
see the through line. And what's great is that generally, and especially in the big companies, the left hand sometimes doesn't know what the right hand's doing, so you get overlap. You get, you get people spending resources on a tool that another department could use but doesn't know exist. And
Right.
so it's really nice if everybody's working from the same playbook, right?
Yeah.
And that's really been proven out in our circumstance. It's really nice for all departments to just have one access point to understand what's going on in the market. um, Marketing is really an interesting area because we can um, offer data on the positioning of ingredients as well. So the price point, the positioning, the trends, the attributes of products. You can pull reports from Cosmetic IQ, like some sort of data set, competitor benchmarking set, et cetera. And then you can use that data to you can analyze it, and you can see um, where a particular brand is using a hero ingredient, for example, and
Hmm.
positioning it differently depending on how it's being formulated with other ingredients, for example. The best thing is is basically getting ahead of mistakes that happen. So by that I mean, you could launch something and you could launch with a particular positioning that you think is very unique, only to find out 5 weeks later that there's two or three other brands that are positioning the same way. If you had only known about them before, you would have potentially tweaked your marketing message or pulled out a different ingredient to focus on.
Right.
Um, yeah, we've seen that, and that's very exciting. It's really about giving people the confidence to launch in a very confident and strong way. And if you know what the market is, if you have that confidence, then you can do that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I, I keep putting myself back into my role at L'Oreal as the AVP of brand voice, but I was so immersed in marketing and product development. And I should have said earlier that I look at those two roles in under the same umbrella. I mean, you know how the DMIs work at
Yeah.
L'Oreal,
Yeah.
right? And the marketers are very often the product developers, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you leave the chemistry to the labs.
Yes.
Um, so that just really fascinates me. And you bring up ingredients and bringing products to market focused on specific ingredients. I mean, we were so unsophisticated back in the day at Kiehl's that I was very often the one deciding what ingredients were going to be highlighted on packaging because I was writing the packaging copy. I mean, certainly if we were, developing a formula, or, a sunscreen or a hydrating serum around hyaluronic acid, like, that would be the focus, but any supportive ingredients I was making up. And you know how the complexes work. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, bunching a bunch of ingredients together and making up a complex name. I mean, that's really how you skirt that whole issue of launching into the marketplace and, going, oops, Clinique just launched the same kind of thing.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
how, I'd be so curious to learn,
Yeah.
how did you collect, market data? Like, how did you feel comfortable, um, with your particular marketing angle, if you will, or was it a bit of cross your fingers involved?
I think there was more than a bit of cross your fingers involved. Um, there was very little that was data driven. It was really about trends that the marketers were seeing in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that there wasn't like raw innovation going on. When I was at Kiehl's, we introduced a 10% vitamin C serum, which was pretty unheard of in its day outside of SkinCeuticals, which was a L'Oreal brand.
Yeah.
And we used to call them like as formulas, where a product that one brand was launching or had launched, had relied upon for several years, another brand could take that exact same formula and remarket it and repackage it. That
Yeah.
was never the case for a very a product that was very closely tied to a brand's identity. So for SkinCeuticals, it would have been the CE Ferulic. No other brands were allowed to take that formula. For Kiehl's, it was Creme de Corps, the body lotion. Like, other brands weren't allowed to take Creme de Corps. But, for the most part, if we saw that Lancome had launched a serum that we thought was interesting, or a moisturizer, or, we decided that we wanted to launch a moisturizer that did X, Y, and Z, we would take that formula and reposition it, add other ingredients to it. I, as who being responsible for the brand identity, was also responsible for product identity, and I would write the product positioning, the product concept, and that was molded over the course of many, many weeks, and months, half a year even, before anything got to market. It was just a very dynamic and creative and a bit of wild west, smattering of wild west thrown in. But obviously it worked, because look how successful L'Oreal is and continues to be.
Totally. And the thing is, there's no replacement for experience and instinct. Like, there's still such an important role for actual people in product development, in marketing, and all of that. Like, it's even more important now than ever, I think, because one of the things, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, is the homogenization of language and marketing in this AI age, right? If you look at LinkedIn, everybody's LinkedIn posts all sound the same. Somebody described it as slam poetry for business the other day, and I thought that was bang on.
It's so true.
Right?
It's so true.
Because Chat and Claude, they all have they have a certain rhythm, and they have certain ticks that come out, right? And so now, because everybody's using it, it all sounds the same.
Yeah, and if you're not attached to the copy, or you're certainly not trained like I am to look for it, we can see those, and I just kind of laugh. But to your point, really at the outset, about pattern recognition, there isn't. ChatGPT and Claude aren't ideating anything new. That's not how they're built. And if you want to bring something new, a new idea to market that has never been thought of before, you need a human to do that.
Yes, I absolutely agree. It can help you get there. That's what's neat. You can,
for sure,
really use it as a partner in crime, like a partner to, work with and ideate with. But you really have to work with it. You can't just sort of prompt it and expect it to do it for you. But it can certainly help generate good ideas with you. So I think
absolutely, things that have been thought of no matter how many times. And I listened to this really fascinating podcast. I wish I remembered which one it was. It might have been. Do you ever listen to the Dwarkesh podcast?
No, I don't know it.
I don't even know how he would define himself. He's like a 25-year-old guy, like super smart. I think he's based in Silicon Valley, which is how he gets so many of his guests, scientists and, founders of AI companies. And there was, he had his episodes, unlike mine, are sometimes 2.5 to 4 hours long. And he just wonks out with a particular expert on X. And there was an episode about artificial intelligence and how we are going to determine whether artificial intelligence is sentient.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
how do we get to that point? Like, who decides that it's sentient and not sentient? And they talked a lot about pattern recognition and how
Hmm.
pattern recognition defines intelligence.
Hmm.
And certainly with humans, there's emotion involved, but much of nature is defined by pattern recognition. And they used the example, I think, of a cat, or I had equated it to my own cat, and about how the cat observes everything you do all day long. And that's how the cat can predict what you're going to do at any given time, and
Yep.
how the cat determines whether something is out of the ordinary or not, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's reliant on pattern recognition. And even we do it subconsciously.
Oh,
And
I was just going to say, we absolutely do it. There's a great book as well, I'll recommend, called Thinking
mhm,
Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. He was
mhm.
a Nobel Prize winner, and it's all about our, the two kinds of thinking that we do, one of which is so automatic because we're used to that pattern recognition. If we had to make a decision every single time something happened, we would not
We'd
get
be
out of bed.
exhausted. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Totally.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I love this stuff. I think it's very interesting. And but the wild thing to me actually is how AI tools are able to do so much, like so many powerful things, but they actually still need the data. And not to bring it back around to me, but
Bring
but
it back around to you. Yeah.
but they do need the clean data in order to function. In order, you need that layer. And so that's why I feel nice. Perhaps I'm lulling myself into a safe space here, but I
Hmm.
feel like we are insulated in what we do because that data layer will always be necessary. And and it changes all the time. I mean, we're constantly uploading new launches every single day. It's amazing how many new launches happen in a month in the US. It's
Oh,
really extraordinary.
I mean, do you have a number for us?
Oh, I think it's a few hundred at least, if not
Mhm.
more, and those are the not super long tail. That's
Yeah.
legitimate brands. I think it's around 500 a month new launches
Oh
on
my
average.
God.
It's a
That is
lot.
crazy. Which is the perfect segue to the ingredient trends. You and I have talked about this, the NAD plus and exosomes and the greater conversation about longevity. It's
Yeah.
often reality is far more nuanced, right, than the marketing. What does your data reveal about how these trends are actually showing up in formulations?
Yeah, that's such a good question because, of course, exosomes, PDRN as well.
Oh, yes.
Those were ingredients that existed a long time ago in Asia. I mean, this is not
Yeah.
new, right? But it's taken a long time to sort of make its way over, and we're now seeing in the data, we're now seeing there being some adoption of these ingredients. And I actually happened to look at that today for a client that I was talking to. And it's interesting. The majority of the products, of course, that exist in the US market are from South Korea, from Japan. But we're starting to see some brands start to experiment with these ingredients. Medicate is the most recent example. They came out with an
Yeah.
exosome, and there is a handful. I'd say there's about 20 different brands that have tried their hand at these ingredients, but it's certainly not saturated. That's for sure. There's still a lot of room. But you know what? This is the thing about trends. It's like where I'm really fascinated by is, are these ingredients actually going to get picked up by the customer, the consumer in America? Like, are they going to
Yeah.
understand? Is it going to be educated properly? Are they going to actually be comfortable using it en masse?
Right.
So watch this space. We shall see. You know.
Yeah. I mean, ingredient trends are fascinating to me. You know, I talk about this often on my blog about how and why, and do we even know why some ingredients are enduring and some ingredients just kind of fall off. Like, I never hear about snail mucin really anymore. And
Yeah.
that was really hot. And you know, I was tuned into it because I loathe it. I loathe the feel of snail mucin on my skin. And,
Yeah.
you know, and because I have a skincare blog and ingredients fascinate me. And, you know, I
Yeah.
remember in 2016 or so being first introduced to this ingredient that I could hardly pronounce at the time, and that was niacinamide. And yeah, and it was, you know, that Paula's Choice 10% niacinamide serum, which today continues to be my number one go-to anti-aging product. And so but niacinamide exploded, right? And now there's
Oh, totally.
niacinamide in everything at some level.
Yep.
So it's fascinating to me, the ingredients that do take off and the ingredients that just maybe have their time in the sun for 6 months, a year. You know, in a
Yeah.
year from now, will anybody be talking about exosomes? Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
we'll see. I hope not, because it's all nonsense. PDRN PDRN is equal, you know,
Sodium
load
DNA. That's all it
load
is.
of
Yeah.
nonsense. Yeah, load of nonsense. And if I have to see one more PDRN serum tinted pink with vitamin B12, I'm gonna come out of my body. Like,
Okay.
that kind of stuff. Like, I wish, you know, you talked about where the consumer is, like, mentally, like, do they
Mhm.
get it? Do they, you know, how do they understand it? And I kind of think that there's a large number of consumers who really don't care to get it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they just want to stick with what's tried and true and what's probably a little easier to understand. You know,
And the
simple.
luxury consumer does not care to get it. The luxury consumer just wants to pay for luxury.
Yes,
Like
yes.
like if the
Yeah.
La Mer consumer, the real like if that consumer ever really turned that jar around, or it's not, the ingredients aren't on the jar, but the box around, and saw what was
Yes.
really
Yeah.
in that product at
Yes.
high levels, like,
Yeah.
wouldn't she
I know.
stop, or he stop, and say, I just paid $350 for what? But they
Petroleum.
don't want to know that. They just want people to know
Happy
that they,
experience. Yeah.
yes,
Happy experience.
yeah,
And there's something to be said for the experience for sure. I mean,
agreed. A lot of
people,
beauty is experience.
it is. It's almost
Yeah,
psychosomatic in that sense. It's very much a, yeah, you want that experience, and that level of service. And there's a lot into it. But yeah, it's the snail serum is interesting because
the
that's
snail
also,
mucin.
or the snail mucin or the snail
Yeah,
serum, because that was also very much coming from Asia
for
as well,
sure.
right?
Huge out of K beauty. Yes,
And that's super
absolutely.
interesting, of course, is like just because it works wildly well in one geo doesn't necessarily mean it's going to do well in another. So it's
Right,
yeah.
right.
So we'll watch this space and see what happens.
We need
But
to have a follow-up episode
we will.
in like 5 years.
Okay. My wrinkles will be a little deeper, but okay.
Lord only knows. Well, by then, the Riverside AI will be able to smooth us both out.
Yeah, I was disappointed that it doesn't smooth me out the same way my Zoom calls do.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not quite there yet, but the AI functionality in Riverside is pretty damn good.
Okay, good.
Um, you know, I
Anyways,
was going. I mean, maybe we covered this already, but I was going to ask. You know, there's this disconnect to me in my head about what's in a product and how it's positioned, right? Like, and I think back to my L'Oreal days, but like, from your vantage point, how big is that gap? And is it getting better? Or is it getting worse? Or it just kind of stays the same?
like what's in a product in terms of the formulation, the ingredient, and how it's marketed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we all know we all know that there are marketing ingredients in products, of course, as
Right.
you know,
Right.
and they're thrown in to be able to make claims that, and this isn't every product, it's not every brand, but yes, of
No.
course it's
But is that
extreme.
transparency? Is the trend towards transparency correcting that at all? I guess is my question. That's
I don't think so.
always, always, always been the case. But
Yeah, and I don't think so because I think that you know there's so much product out there. I mean, there's lower barriers to entry now than there ever was because you can
yeah,
just go to any CM and you can slap your label on a product. And I mean, yeah, I think it's almost worse now, if I was to be honest.
yeah.
There are some brands that market on the basis of transparency. That's their
There
marketing
are,
position.
and there's one in particular that I'm not going to name.
Okay.
I just don't want to name them because I don't know why. I just don't. I just don't. But
Okay.
the entire brand is built on the premise of transparency and pushing back against this lack of transparency in beauty. And when you turn around their packaging, it's still the same BS.
Right. So I wouldn't name them, but
So
yeah, like
their transparency is their brand positioning. It's not
yes.
transparent. It's transparency for positioning's sake, not transparency for transparency's sake. Which it
Exactly.
just kind of makes me sad, because I was kind of believing their hype, and then they got on my radar, and then I was like, oh, their products are interesting, and you know what? Their products are not bad. The formulas are really good. Their co-founders, one of the founders, is a cosmetic chemist, and the products are very good. But a lot of it is still marketing nonsense and marketing spin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we all, everyone who's in this business has to sell their product and the marketing has to be good.
Yeah, yeah,
That's and good marketers are, very valuable. But I don't know that like it's tough. I think that the consumer ultimately has to ask questions and they have to get behind these products and with resources like chat gpt et cetera, you can actually do a lot more research than ever, which is helpful.
yeah.
um, that's a good thing, but at the same time, like everybody's scrambling, there's so much competition and everybody's trying to say as much as they can without crossing that line into the
Right.
legal sphere.
Well, that's
So,
that's also the curious thing about this industry. And I was on a call this morning with the team I'm on a client, and we were talking about how I guess the new creative director is cut from similar cloth as I am and other members of the team, where we got our start really and our foundation in big beauty at, corporations like L'Oreal. And it was just, it was just kind of fascinating. Like we all have these guardrails that we put on ourselves, when you talk about legal and regulatory and all of that. Like I know what I should be saying and what I certainly shouldn't be saying. And
yes.
it's kind of always been the case that the big players kind of play by the rules for the most part.
Hmm.
Legally, they of course fudge things and spin in through marketing. And then the
Yeah.
small players just kind of get away with everything,
Yeah.
because the government can't police everything. So
Yes.
it's just kind of fascinating. And the whole idea of all these brands competing with each other, and when it comes to how they do and how a prospective brand would or could put cosmetic IQ to use, you know, how does, I guess, having real time product and ingredient visibility like that change the way brands compete?
Well, one way is just when you actually have your arms around the whole market and you can see the context that you're launching in, because of course nobody launches a product in a vacuum. I mean, there is history there, there's current state there, there's and if you want to differentiate yourself, well, either through the formulation itself and or through the marketing, it's really advantageous to understand the context in which you're marketing to differentiate yourself if that's indeed what you want to do. If you're a leader, if you're a follower, maybe you don't necessarily want to differentiate as much as you want to align. But
Right.
just understanding the market is very important, and it's something that, as I mentioned earlier, companies try to do. They try to do that on their own. I've talked to many companies and different roles within them and have asked them how they go about this. And it can come down to literally like going to Sephora and looking at the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you understand that a little bit of context is important, well, then the whole context surely would be even more important. And again, it comes down to that confidence that you, what you say in your marketing is true, and you can confidently launch your products. And yeah, I think that's like the number one thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
We could go on and on and on and on and on for another hour, like Dwarkesh. But let's jump to the lightning round.
Let's do it. Let's
You're
do
gonna
it.
listen to that Dwarkesh podcast, and I know you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, Carmine, whoa,
I
whoa."
know. I know. I'm going to be scared for our future, but
Yeah, but it's not just about AI. Like, he talks to historians. He
yeah,
had this one historian on and was talking about ancient Rome and why the Roman Empire collapsed. And
yeah.
it's very complex. It took hundreds and hundreds of years for the empire to collapse, and it was anyway. There's just so much. He covers such
Yeah, I
fascinating
can't wait
things.
because all that history stuff is just as fascinating.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
you'll
it'll
love it.
this is for me. Yeah.
You'll love it. All right, so let's jump into the lightning round.
Okay.
Something you believed early in your career that you no longer believe.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today because I knew you were going to ask me this question. And I think I really I didn't understand or appreciate how big the market was. I think that really is something that now, doing the work that I've done and um, being, involved in Skin School and Cosmetic IQ for nearly a decade, um, it's really interesting to see how overwhelmingly huge it is. And it's just, I meet a lot of founder-led brands. I meet a lot of people that think they can just sort of enter the market and that it's going to be easy, that they can just build their own brand. But you know, it is so difficult. And my number one piece of advice for people, not that I'm in the business of giving advice, but is understand your marketing plan from jump. Like, before you even create a product, you have to understand how you're going to market that product. And it should be, there's a wonderful book called Baked In, and it talks about that. Like, the marketing should be baked into the concept, right? From jump.
Yeah.
And I really truly believe that, because you see brands come and go. We see them come and go all the time because we're tracking the market so well. So we're constantly discontinuing products and brands. Celebrities are not immune to this either, of course, because celebrities can get kind of a big lift at the beginning upon launch. They can get that initial excitement for their brand, and then they can, fail miserably within 2 years. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
name brands either, but there's plenty to choose from that
Oh
would fit,
yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
They're not any more fail safe than anybody else.
they really aren't. In fact,
No.
maybe even more so, it's scary because, the initial response is huge. And so everyone gets excited, and then, it wanes quite quickly. So you really have to need to have a very, a marketing position that has longevity to it and has a real, differentiation to it, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, Yeah, the market, the vastness of the market, I think that has always, not surprised me anymore, but it's certainly a shock, I
Yeah.
think when I tell people, yeah.
What do you think is the most overrated ingredient in skincare right now?
Overrated. Um, well, I I wouldn't I wouldn't want to highlight any particular one, but I will jump on your PDRN exosomes.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of fervor about it, but
Yes, agreed.
I don't think that's necessarily translating into what's actually happening in the market. So from that perspective, I think it's a little bit hyped,
Well,
and it's
let's see how Medik8 does with the first one to put PDRN and exosomes in one product.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how the market understands it and if they respond, positively to it. Yeah.
How about a brand that you think is doing it right, like from a formulation and honesty or transparency standpoint?
Oh, hmm. Um, I really like I quite like the brand Necessaire. Do you know Necessaire
Ah, yeah,
body?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I like them. Um, I sort of I like simplicity.
Yeah.
I myself am very simple. I'm very simple regiment. Um, but I like that brand. Um, I've always liked I liked actually Avita. I
Mm.
really like that. I really like the scent of Avita. The hair products. I've always enjoyed that. Um, and yeah, so many brands are popping through my head right now.
Have you maybe you've come across it in your data. Have you ever tried Intoxicated?
I haven't tried it. It's in our
Ah,
system. It's in our system though.
that
Is it
is a
good?
really oh yeah, that is a really quality, very smart product. I
What a
was at
great
a
name.
brunch. Yeah, it really is, isn't it? And I was at a at brunch the other day, sitting across from this dude. He's 18 years old, like makes his own skincare and his own sunscreen, which horrifies me to no end.
Yeah.
But it's not because he's like pushing back against anything or riding any TikTok trends. It's that his skin is super sensitive. So he
Okay.
makes his own moisturizer and adds zinc oxide to it for the day.
Mm,
Is he adding enough zinc? I was like, how do you even know you're adding enough zinc oxide? How do you
mhm.
know what level of SPF you're giving yourself? You don't. And he's like, well, I just can't use anything, everything, like really, like I just have these allergic reaction to everything. I said, well, you should try Intoxicated. It was made by an allergist. And, they studied the market and, they have a product that has removed, I don't remember the exact number, but basically every known allergen that's used in a skincare product is not in their product.
That's
And
great to know. I'm gonna
yeah,
check that out.
it's positioned kind of price point wise as CeraVe.
Okay.
And I mentioned that brand and he's like, "Yeah, I know CeraVe." And I said, "Well, think of Intoxicated as like a modern version of CeraVe. Like most of the CeraVe formulas made for sensitive skin are from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
There's ingredients in there that nobody realized 30 years ago could be problematic. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
take a look at that brand. It's just really
That's a great
phenomenal.
example of a brand that's baked in. Like you can even just the name
Yes.
itself, so perfect,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's the perfect package. And
Yeah, you need
the
to know
founder's an
who's
allergist, like
yeah,
and I've had him on the pod. I've had the both founders on the podcast and like he's
yeah.
fascinating the way he thought about this, He's like,
Wow,
I had
wow.
nothing to recommend to my patients who were
Yeah,
having allergic reactions to things. Like
yeah.
there was nothing to recommend because everything is filled with allergens. And so I
Oh,
was like,
brilliant.
I
I
guess
can't
I
wait to
just
check
have to
that out.
create it. Yeah, yeah. Uh, what's your go-to indulgent snack? I took
My
you out of beauty and skincare and data.
I'm I love food, but so doesn't everyone. Um, okay, you know what I love? I actually make my own, and I just did 2 days ago, my own seed crackers.
Oh,
Okay. And they're
nice. Okay.
so good. And then when
Yum.
you put avocado on them and you smush the
Hmm.
avocado and then put rock salt on,
Nice. Isn't rock salt or flake salt everything? Like
yeah,
people
that's
who
like,
aren't using that, you have to have that kind of like I use I forgot, maybe it's Murray Hill, I think.
I
Pink
think I have
flake
that
salt.
too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
like
that too.
that. I just sprinkled some on my salad earlier on my lunch, and it's just like the
Salt is
mouthfeel of
everything.
that. I love
Totally.
salt, and I will not be called out by anybody anywhere about how much salt I put on things. Like ask ChatGPT. That is not an issue unless you already have high blood pressure. I'm sorry.
Right?
This snack, I don't know if you've ever tried these. It's called
I've seen
Unreal.
those. I have not tried them.
Yeah,
Coconut? Coconut?
this dark chocolate and coconut. It's like a honestly, if you think of Mounds, you know that
Yeah.
Mounds bar, Almond Joy and Mounds. If you think of Mounds as the CeraVe, this is the intoxicated of this particular this particular chocolate.
Those are
I love
fudgy.
chocolate and coconut. OMG.
So do I.
Unreal.
Thank you.
Unreal. These things are unreal. And there you
They're
go. The
probably,
positioning is baked into it.
it is.
Yeah.
I've got many notes from this conversation. I've written them all down.
Well, I can give you the AI generated transcript if you like.
Yes,
Um,
thank
two more questions.
you.
Favorite
Okay.
city you've lived in?
Uh, I really like London a lot. I think it's
Hmm.
just steeped in history.
Yeah.
But I will say my favorite city is Rome. I just
Oh
absolutely
wow.
love Rome because it's just every corner, every last piece of it is historic and it's
Yeah.
fascinating. A
Yeah.
fascinating.
I had one of my really good friends in LA over um yesterday, and I don't even remember why we're talking about YouTube. He's a big YouTuber. Like I
Mm,
don't really watch YouTube like TV, you know?
mhm.
Like he watches YouTube like he watches TV.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You have to go to this one YouTube channel," and I'm pulling it up, and it is like 4 straight hours of drone footage of Rome. That's it. And I don't even know that there's music. And we turned it on, and it was going like the drone is going over the aqueduct, you know, in slow mo. It's
Just to
fascinating.
have on in the background. I think that's
Exactly, exactly. And so when I don't have cat TV on, I think I'll have yeah. The cat has his own channel on YouTube every morning at 5:45. The birds are chirping.
oh,
Um,
that's beautiful.
it is
I love
cute, right?
it. I love it.
Last question. A product you've repurchased more than once.
Um, the Paula's Choice BHA exfoliant.
Oh my God. Amazing product. I love that about you. I
Shout out to
knew,
Paula's Choice.
I knew that we were simpatico. You know, the fact that you know that that Paula's Choice BHA liquid is not just for oily and acne prone skin. Monika, that is gold.
I'm glad you approve.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that brand is so great, and she's doing so. She's now, I think she's in the Middle East recently, right? She's
yeah.
launched in the Middle East, and yeah,
Incredible.
it's an incredible brand. So yeah.
That's my favorite brand.
Oh, really?
There, I've said it
Uh,
yet again. I never hold that back.
Shout
I'll
out
tell
to
you
Paula.
my least favorite brand and my favorite brand at the drop of a hat. My favorite products, you know? Yeah.
Yeah,
Paula
yeah,
introduced me to niacinamide. Come on.
yeah, exactly. Back in the
Yeah.
day.
All right. This was amazing, Monika. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Carmine. Your podcast is awesome, and
Oh, and
yeah,
what you're doing is kind of awesome too. I think it's moving the needle
well,
for
I'm
real.
honored to be part of your podcast. I think it's great. So thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me.
All
I
right,
really
cool.
appreciate it. All right.
Thanks so much. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Thank you for listening to the Skin Karma Pod. Find more insights, real talk, and reviews of my favorite skincare products on the Skin Karma blog at skinkarma.com. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate and review this episode. It helps me to reach more listeners. Ciao.